Hello everyone, I'm here with Anton, or Tony Dubshot, and he's a microtonal freak and makes dub, of course. He's going to tell us something about a new module he's very enthusiastic about. Hello Anton.
Hey, dear Gearslutz and Jan, glad you could make it, Jan.
Alright.
Okay, I'll take this from you.
Yeah, cool. You have something to show us?
Yes.
Alright. Okay.
It's a module. It's a new module. It's by a new name in Eurorack, we should say, because it is about a module here. Maybe you can. It is by a manufacturer called Tubbutec. That is Tobias Münzer from Germany, and he is new on the Eurorack scene, but he's not new as a producer of gear. He has made some fabulous gear in the past, so he's an experienced producer of gear. So what he has done is actually something that I dreamed about for a long time, because I really like microtonal music and I wanted to do it on a modular, but it was very difficult because there was no good microtonal quantizer. So that is exactly what this thing does, is a microtonal quantizer. So what it does is it picks up a CV signal and then it can transform it into any scale that you like, basically. So if you are into microtonal, this is like the thing that you've probably been waiting for, if you want to do it in Eurorack.
Right. And can you take us through the machine? What are the, because it has more functions, right?
Yeah, it has a few functions. It is it has very good MIDI implementation. You see here on the top, you see the MIDI in here and the MIDI out, and they function as a CV MIDI converter, so both ways. And you also see here the tiny USB that is also MIDI. It's in and out. And next to that we have the SD card, and the SD card is like the memory for you can load scales, but it also has the firmware, and I don't know what is actually on it, but it's let's just say it also has a SD slot. And then it has the screen, it has a knob here and one little knob here, and then you have two channels. Each channel goes vertically, goes down, so you have CV in, you have gate in, you have CV out, and you have gate out, and you get that 2 times. So you have here 2 channels of microtonal quantizing. You can gate at what moment you want the quantizing to be happening, and you can also gate, you can derive from the gate out the moment that quantizing is happening. And yeah, well, it's just what you expect from a quantizer, but with more scales.
And it's a MIDI to survey interface as well, right?
Yeah.
And I understand the software is in development.
Yes, that is true. This is like serial number 3, so it's a very early one. The manual is not ready yet. The firmware will probably be updated a little bit, but since it goes through the SD slot, I don't think that will be a problem. I think it's pretty stable right now. I only had a little glitch when I turned this knob in 1 or 2 menus, so that is probably something that he's going to fix. And well, it works. It works, and it's coming out really soon. Right. Probably by the time this is online.
So what makes this this thing special is the microtonality.
Yep.
And its precision.
Absolutely, very high. If you are like a microtonal enthusiast, these people sometimes want to tune very precise.
Right.
And you can tune this like half a cent precise, or even better.
Okay.
So it is really precise.
And what do you use it for?
Well, I have not used it really. because I just have it.
All right.
But I can tell you what I generally would use a quantizer for.
All right.
I would use it personally to create in the modular system CV,
Yeah.
and to derive from this CV certain frequencies. That is how I would use it, because I like the idea of creating, you know, fluctuating frequencies or based on feedback or, you know, whatever.
What's so special about it? What is?
Well, it is. If you are not into it and you think, yeah, why should I bother? It is like an extra possibility. It gives you an extra knob or an extra road. It helps you to stay fresh, because when you change your tuning, you change the vibe. So it is really easy to create new vibes, or to experiment with vibes, or to just look for new sounds or new emotional, how do you say?
Response.
Yeah, stuff like that is relatively easy. And there's also some nice tricks that you can do. So I think it's very versatile for me personally.
All right. Can you take us through some
sounds?
Yeah.
Sure, sure. We have some bleeping going on.
Ah, bleeping.
Where is it? I don't hear it. Here. Whoops. So I'll do this slow. What you hear right now are two oscillators. You hear two oscillators, this one, and they are tuned. So you might think this is out of tune, but it is actually not out of tune. The tuning that you hear right now is based on dividing an octave in 10 equal parts. And so an octave divided in 10 equal parts, that is funny, because usually you have an octave divided in like 12 parts. That is like usual, and I'll try to find that for you. I'll try to find that one for you, but I have to get into the menu first. Okay, there we go. So now I just switch to, you see here the 12, that means we get 12 divisions of the octave, and that is like standard. So this sounds like your average Nintendo game. This is the familiar sound. Now, the way that these scales are organized is you see 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That is like divide an octave in 7 equal parts, divide it in 8 equal parts, etc. What you hear now is an octave divided in 14 equal parts. So that sounds quite different. And now we're going to 15 equal parts, or 16 equal parts, or 17 equal parts. And you hear every time I change the scale, the quantizer finds new melodies, because it is trying out to find different frequencies. Every time you put in a new scale, you say, okay, now I want to have these and these and these frequencies. So the whole thing changes.
Right.
And what you actually want, but what is not in this demonstration, what you actually want is also to combine this tuning with a timbre that is good for it. But we don't do that right now. We only use sine waves. So you don't really hear the full power of what you can do.
Right.
But if you only use sine waves, okay, you get this. But if you use the proper timbre for a certain tuning, you really start to fly. Then you really go.
You made a nice presentation before.
Yeah.
And we got some of it on tape.
Mm-hmm.
So you could use this one, this Microtune, to send voltages to the main oscillator.
Yeah.
But also to the modulator at the same time.
Absolutely. What I can do, that's a nice trick. I can do, for example, here. I'll just take the.
Yeah, it's your trick. So I'm just thinking like.
Yeah,
okay,
you're absolutely right. You're
there's
absolutely
two channels,
right.
so.
You're absolutely right. This will work. It's not the same trick that I used in the presentation, but
Right.
it's going to work a little bit. So
I can hear a change.
but yeah, of course, it is a sick. But what you actually can do, what my presentation was about, is how you can use FM to lock the
Right.
tuning with the timbre. Is I like to match the tuning with the sound that is played,
Right.
because that gives you some extra musical atmospheres that are much better than when you only have bleeping sine waves. So there's more to it than just the frequencies, but it's a good start. And for example, what I would also like to point out about the kind of tunings that are in this module, you can here is load is where you load a module, where you load a tuning. Now here we have. When it starts up, you see 4 folders, and these 4 folders all have a bunch of related tunings. And for this moment, I would like to point out this one. Savage is a good buddy of mine. I push the button Savage, and you see 4 more folders. Now these folders are part of packages that he made that are free, available online, and he has documentation about 4 different packages that really get you started if you are new in the microtonal scene and you think, wow, there are like 2,000 different scales. No, there are like 10,000 different scales. Where do I begin, you know? If you get that panic, you go to Savage. You go to his website and you load his packs. Like for instance here, we have one that is really funny, that is tunings with no octaves. So here you have, this is for example, a tuning with no octaves in it. And these are very specialist things, but you can read about it in the documentation that was made with these packs, and it's a really nice way to start with microtonal stuff. Also we have here Xen Arts, that is the next folder, and that has some really basic examples that I was showing you earlier, like divide an octave in 15 parts. This is an octave in 15 parts, but it also has much more, this pack. It has really nice tunings that have to do with natural overtones, with the Harmonic Series, which are very interesting. So the Harmonic Series is like the blub 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 what you get when you turn on a filter, you know, the harmonic resonance that you get from a filter. Now, this is also in a tuning. It's really nice for maybe drones or something like that, you know. So there are a few packs here that get you started.
New tunings can be downloaded.
You can even make them. You can edit them on the machine,
right,
actually.
Okay.
So I don't think I would personally do that. I would personally probably make a scale on a computer, put it on the SD card, and load it that way.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to use a computer for that whatever reason, or you just have an idea, you can't.
Yeah.
You can edit the scales in this thing.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
And the controls are quite easy, or
well, it is not bad. I mean, you go like this. You go through the controls, and then here you have the folder sign. So you click once, and you go back, and click once, and you have this one under the big. There's a small one, and that takes you back one step in the menu.
Oh yeah.
What you see here is tuning. So you also have a tuning part. To be honest, I have not used this yet because I have a different tuner. but you can tune oscillators with this module. So it has a calibration option. In theory, you can load a profile of a VCO and it will correct the thing that is wrong with the VCO will be corrected by the module.
You can make your own scales, but I think what is nice to hear for people, I don't know if it's possible, can you go through some scales and show the difference with that little sequence that you were playing? So people can hear what all these different tunings. You don't have to, just pick a few.
Well, I'll start with the tuning. I'll start with the tuning that everybody knows, so that you have a reference point.
All right.
This is your reference point. This is like the tuning that everybody uses. And if you are a microtonalist, you say this is boring. You're right. So now we want something else. And a very easy way to get something else is when you don't have an octave divided in 12 equal parts like here, but for example you say let's take 13. Why not? Yeah. Okay, so I push the button. Right. We go from 12 to 13.
Right.
Now listen.
Yeah.
That's a really different vibe.
Very different.
I'm not saying that it is nice or that it is.
It has more tension.
Exactly. It is. Yeah. It is close to 12. 12 is very harmonious, and this has more tension.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. And now we go to 14, and that has less tension. I think. Here, judge for yourself.
It's more harmonious, yeah.
It's a bit easier on the ears.
Yeah, you changed the octave on.
I changed the octaves. That's right.
Yeah. So.
And now we have some longer notes, so you can hear a little bit better, maybe.
It was fairly obvious that quite a big difference.
Yeah, but you can also hear, if you listen now, you can hear that it is quite precise. At least I hear it.
Yeah.
I hope you hear it too.
I do.
So let's go on. Go on to 15. It's again a different experience. And what you can also say, like,
this is a bit cuckoo.
Yeah, and 15 is actually, is related to 20 because it is all mathematics. So now I jump from 15 to 20 because they can both be divided by 5. So there is a bit of.
Yeah.
They are a bit related, like the 15 and the 20. You can play games with that. You know, you can say, okay, I start in 7 and I go to 14.
You could use it in the same song or in a different voice.
Definitely. And Tobias is also going to improve it in a sense that you can have 2 tunings on the channels.
Right.
So you have channel 1 has tuning 1 and channel 2 has tuning 2.
And there's an expansion coming, right?
Yeah, so that you can have 4 channels in total.
All right.
Or maybe even more, but at least 2 extra, you know? I don't know how many can be done.
Okay, that sounds good, because then you can do microtonal chords in very different scales.
Exactly.
And mess around with that.
Exactly. So here is some funny stuff. Like, for example, the world scale spec from Savage. It has some
or flip around using a voltage controlled switch or something.
Yeah, definitely.
And
definitely.
tuning,
yes, very good idea. Yeah. I have here, for example, Indonesian Slendro and Pelog. Would you like to hear that?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay. I have to change the.
That's okay.
So this is the Slendro tuning, and if you listen to these beeps, it sounds very clinical. So you really should not use this only for science. You have to get into.
Well, you can hook it up to an Elements or something like that.
Yeah, and then you have to find out what sounds work with it, you know? Because not every sound is going to work with this tuning. You need really to look for sounds that match the tuning.
I'm thinking glassy,
metallic.
Yeah. Nice.
Here's
nice.
another Indonesian. Here is the pelog. It's bigger steps.
Yeah.
This is more. This is close to 5 Edo, but it's definitely different.
Yeah, it's different.
So you have all these scales. Good luck with it.
Is there a Japanese one in there?
I think so. I think so.
Alright. Yeah, let's have a look. I'm here right now. So.
Here you go. Hirayoshi. I do not know anything about this one. But now, yeah, well, what I can try is to make a timbre for it, but I don't know if I can do it.
You don't have to. I mean, let's go through a few more of these tunings.
Okay.
I really like the
You want to hear bagpipes?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. This is the I don't know what it is, but the name that it has is Macedonian Bagpipe. So I have no idea where Savage got this one from.
Probably the Macedonians.
Yeah. And so on, and I can show a different.
Let's hear a few, because there's thousands in there, right?
Yeah, literally thousands.
Okay, so let's go through a few.
Here is some very theoretical stuff, but it's all there are some wonderful PDFs explaining what the theory is behind it. So this is called decani. I don't know how you pronounce it, but this is like special stuff for people who are really into the theory of microtonal. They can do crazy shit with these types of scales that it is like you hear usual harmonics, but they are twisted in a way that you feel like you're in how should I put it? You feel like you are in a vortex. You are losing your point of reference,
right?
And you can do very funny tricks with that.
Okay, cool. And of course, you have to compose in a different way then.
Yeah. Some things have to be planned, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. What is this?
This is called Eikozani, but you really have to read the PDF that goes with it to understand it. I cannot explain it right now. That would go too deep.
It sounds a bit more harmonic than the other one.
Yeah, but there are specific tricks that you can do with this one, and like I said, I'm not deep enough into it to explain it. But for people who really want to explore microtonal stuff, this is a wonderful place to start.
Right.
And we have here Huygens Fokker. This is like the whole Scala library, but that is literally thousands and thousands and thousands of scales.
Yeah.
So that is really very much.
Yeah, because it's an open source project, right?
Yeah.
The Scalas.
Yeah. It's actually Dutch. So I'm just I'm pushing a random button right now. It's funny because we are right now in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and 20 kilometers that way is Delft, and there lives Zoetermeer. The guy is from Zoetermeer, I think.
Yeah.
Who made the Scala software, Manuel Opdekoel.
All right.
So he's living around the corner, and he collected all these scales. But it can be a bit, if you are new, it can be a bit too much to see these enormous amounts of scales. Where do you begin?
Yeah, or you just pick a few and that you like,
Sure.
and just browse.
Sure.
And that's a bit what we're doing now here as well.
You can tune other stuff, and this one I think is more flexible when it comes to creating custom scales. So basically the Scala format, the complete Scala format is integrated in this design, and that cannot be set from the ornament and crime.
The ornament and crime is more like a general module to do a lot of things.
With a very good microtonal extras.
But it doesn't have the MIDI to Survey interface.
And it does not have the same flexibility when it comes to creating custom scales or integrating scales. And
also, I don't know if you tried yet, it also has a CV to MIDI interface. So you can hook up a MIDI synthesizer.
Yeah, personally I haven't tried it yet.
Right.
But since Tobias has done a lot of this kind of work, I trust that it functions correct.
Right.
You know.
Okay.
Something like that.
And the pricing is?
I don't know from the top of my head. To be,
Alright.
I'm sorry. You have to check that out.
Oh,
It's
okay, we'll check it out.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you very much for the
Okay.
demo, Anton.
Was a pleasure.
Or
Jan.
Tony.
Whatever.